A 17-year-old girl was getting ready to go to school, but she never showed up for her classes. The police got involved and quickly uncovered a series of chilling facts and unexpected clues. Eventually, this led them to a shocking revelation. While the case was solved, the outcome outraged the entire country. Ellie Gould was born on February 6, 2002, in the small British town of Cowan. She came from a big, close-knit family. Besides her parents and older brother, she had a lot of relatives living nearby, and they were all very close. From a young age, Ellie had a deep love for animals, especially horses. Her parents would often take her to the stables, and eventually, they decided to get her a pony. Ellie got into horseback riding, started participating in various events, and achieved some pretty impressive results. Besides that, she planned to study psychology after high school and joined the mounted police. By early 2019, at the age of 17, Ellie was finishing her last year of school. She had plenty of friends there because she always tried to get along with everyone and avoid any conflicts. That same year, a classmate asked Ellie out and they quickly started dating. Ellie, who had never been in a relationship before, was excited about this new experience. On May 3rd, Ellie woke up early as usual and started getting ready for school. She didn't have any morning classes that day, so she only needed to be at school by noon for just a few lessons. She had arranged for a friend to pick her up, said goodbye to her parents as they left for work, and waited at home. A few hours later, Ellie texted her friend, letting her know she'd decided to skip school that day and stay home, telling her not to come by. Her friend figured Ellie just didn't feel like going in for a couple of classes and headed off without her. Around 3 p.m., Ellie's father came home from work. When he walked into the kitchen, he was met with a horrifying sight. His daughter was lying face down on the floor in a large pool of blood. At first, he thought Ellie might have fallen and hit her head or gotten into some other accident, but then he saw the blood splattered all over the kitchen and noticed a knife lodged in his daughter's neck, with her hands gripping the handle. He immediately called an ambulance and tried to perform first aid, following the operator's instructions, but Ellie showed no signs of life and her father realized she was already gone. When the paramedics arrived, all they could do was confirm Ellie's death, estimating she had been dead for at least 4 hours. They also saw multiple stab wounds on her body. Most of them concentrated in her neck area. Ellie's parents were in complete disbelief. Even when the police told them that their daughter had been murdered, her father struggled to accept it. He was in a deep state of shock, convinced that what had happened to Ellie was just some kind of terrible accident. Her body was handed over to the medical examiners, and they established more details about what had happened. Along with the 13 stab wounds, they discovered signs of strangulation on her neck. It seemed the attacker had failed to kill her that way, so he grabbed the kitchen knife. They also found several defensive wounds, showing that Ellie had fought back, desperately trying to defend herself from the attacker. While forensic experts examined the crime scene, the police began their investigation. They brought Ellie's parents to the station and asked if they knew anyone who might have wanted to harm their daughter. After looking at each other, both parents could only think of one name: Thomas, Ellie's boyfriend. Her mom explained that Ellie and Thomas had started dating just a few months earlier, and at first, Ellie was thrilled. She had never been in a relationship before, and Thomas seemed like a great guy. He was a top student, played sports, and was part of the school's rugby team. But things between them started to go downhill pretty quickly. Thomas wanted to spend almost all of his time with her, and he became more demanding about it as the days went by. Ellie, on the other hand, couldn't give him that much attention. She needed to focus on her final exams and take care of her ponies. As time went on, Thomas's behavior got only worse. He would get upset with her, accusing her of not wanting to spend time together, and became increasingly controlling. He would call and text her constantly throughout the day, and then get angry when she couldn't respond right away. Ellie's parents had always felt that Thomas wasn't the right match for her. When he visited their home, he would mostly stay quiet, which they found odd. Ellie, on the other hand, was very outgoing, and her parents figured the relationship wouldn't last long. And they were right. Just a few months into the relationship, Ellie started thinking about breaking up with him. Not only was Thomas's behavior making her more and more uncomfortable, but she also realized that she needed to focus on her exams and getting into college. In the end, she decided to end things and broke up with him on May 2nd, just one day before she was killed. The police also spoke with Ellie's friends, who shared more details about the breakup. Ellie had told them that Thomas didn't take it well. He kept trying to convince her to stay together, calling her constantly and asking to meet. But Ellie refused to talk about it. Their mutual friends mentioned that Thomas's behavior changed drastically after the breakup. That same day, he posted on social media saying that the past few days had been incredibly hard for him. Not only had he just broken up with Ellie, but his father had been diagnosed with cancer, and his aunt had recently passed away. Thomas ended the post by saying he was struggling to cope and planned to seek help from the school counselor. After seeing the post, some of Thomas's friends reached out to offer their support. When they spoke with him, they noticed he seemed genuinely depressed. But when the police asked if they thought Thomas could have harmed Ellie, his friends couldn't believe it and insisted that it was impossible. With all this information in hand, the investigators decided to talk to Thomas. But before that, they examined Ellie's phone and discovered that Thomas had messaged her that morning, asking to meet. They went to Thomas's house and asked where he had been that morning. Thomas explained that his mom had driven him to school, but he was too upset over the breakup and his other problems to attend classes. So, instead of going in, he waited until his mom left, walked to the bus stop, and headed back home. On the way, he messaged one of his teachers to let them know he wouldn't be at school today. According to Thomas, he didn't leave the house after that. He spent the rest of the day doing homework and relaxing. During the conversation, he also asked if Ellie was okay, and the officers told him about her death. After speaking with Thomas, the investigators went to talk to his mother. And here, they encountered an interesting twist. She confirmed that she had dropped him off at school that morning, but when she returned home later, Thomas wasn't there. The police returned to talk to him again. He explained that he hadn't wanted his mom to know he skipped the entire day of school, so he hid in the closet and waited until she left for work. During the conversation, the officers noticed fresh scratches on Thomas's face. When asked how he got them, Thomas claimed he did it himself, but the investigators were skeptical. Given that the medical examiners concluded Ellie had fought back during the attack, these injuries could have easily been inflicted during the struggle. The police also questioned all of Ellie's neighbors, and one of them shared an interesting observation. That morning, they had seen a man approaching Ellie's house. However, due to the distance, the neighbor couldn't make out the man's face or any other useful features. They could only provide a rough description of what he was wearing. The police decided to check Thomas's alibi by looking at the GPS data from his phone. They confirmed that he returned home after leaving school, but what they discovered next sharply contradicted his story. At 10:50 a.m., Thomas's phone disconnected from his home Wi-Fi and began moving in the direction of Ellie's house. Just 3 minutes later, his phone was located near her home, where it remained for about an hour. At 11:51 a.m., the phone started heading back towards Thomas's house and reconnected to his home Wi-Fi within minutes. The police realized that it would have been impossible for Thomas to cover the distance between his and Ellie's home on foot in just 3 minutes since he lived in a neighboring village several miles away. Then, they reviewed surveillance footage along the route and spotted a silver Ford Focus, which belonged to Thomas's parents. The movement of the car matched the phone's location data, leading investigators to conclude that Thomas must have been driving it. The camera also captured the same car leaving Thomas's house again and returning just 18 minutes later. The investigators couldn't find any footage that showed exactly where Thomas had gone during that short trip. However, they managed to narrow down the general area where he might have stopped. Since it seemed like Thomas had only been there for about a minute, the police suspected he might have been getting rid of evidence. Their hunch soon proved correct. While searching a small wooded area, officers found a trash bag containing blood-stained rags and an apron. With all this evidence, the police obtained a warrant to search Thomas's home. They asked him to provide the clothes he had been wearing that morning, and Thomas said he had put them in the washing machine. The officers seized the clothing, along with his shoes, and sent everything to the lab. Forensic experts quickly conducted the analysis and found traces of blood on nearly all of his clothes. Although Thomas had tried to wash them, the experts were able to extract a DNA sample from the blood. The analysis confirmed that the blood belonged to Ellie, just like the blood found on the rags in the woods. Thomas's clothes also matched the description given by Ellie's neighbor, who had seen a man near her house that morning. All of this, combined with other evidence, painted a pretty clear picture of what had likely happened that day. According to the investigators' version, Thomas had planned the murder from the start. After his mom dropped him off at school, he immediately took a bus back home, hid in the closet, and waited for her to leave. He then drove the family car to Ellie's house. It seems that Ellie let him in, possibly thinking he just wanted to talk, and they ended up in the kitchen. Based on the medical examiner's report, Thomas tried to strangle Ellie, which is when he got the scratches on his face. When he couldn't kill her that way, he grabbed a kitchen knife and stabbed her 13 times. The next hour, Thomas tried to clean up the crime scene using the rags and leaving smudges all over the kitchen. He then gathered the rags into a trash bag and tried washing his sneakers in the sink, where traces of blood were also found. After that, he wiped the knife with a kitchen apron, likely to erase his fingerprints, and tossed the apron into the bag. Then, he placed the knife in Ellie's hand and positioned it around her neck, seemingly hoping the police would think she had done it herself and wouldn't suspect him. Detectives also recalled the message Ellie had sent to her friend, saying she wasn't going to school and asking not to pick her up. They concluded this message was sent after she had already died. It seems Thomas had taken her iPhone, unlocked it using Ellie's fingerprint, and sent the message himself. Apparently, he didn't want the body to be found so soon. But that wasn't the end of Thomas's attempts to cover his tracks. After throwing his clothes in the washing machine at home and dumping the bag of evidence in the woods, he ran into a neighbor and asked for a ride to school. There, he attended the remaining classes, chatted with his friends, and even stopped by the school nurse. He told her how difficult the last few days had been for him and how he was struggling to cope. The nurse, concerned about his emotional state, called his mother, who then took him home. Later that day, Thomas posted on social media about his breakup with Ellie and the other problems he'd been dealing with. At the time, Ellie's body hadn't been discovered yet, and police believe that all of these actions were part of his attempt to create an alibi. It took the police only a few hours to gather all these evidence, and by the same evening, the 17-year-old was arrested on suspicion of murder. During the interrogation, Thomas continued to deny any involvement, and the case was eventually sent to court. The first hearing took place on August 29, 4 months after the murder. This time, Thomas suddenly changed his story. He stood before the judge and confessed to killing Ellie, though there was a catch. According to his new version, he had gone to Ellie's house that morning to study for their exams. During their study session, an argument broke out, and from that point on, he claimed he could hardly remember anything. He recalled trying to strangle her but said the rest of his actions were a complete blur. The prosecution didn't buy Thomas's new story, pointing out several major inconsistencies. First of all, Ellie didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore, and all her friends and family knew this. So, the idea that they were studying together seemed highly unlikely, especially since her friend was supposed to pick her up soon. Thomas's claim of memory loss also didn't add up with the fact that he spent an hour trying to clean up the crime scene. On top of that, he placed the murder weapon in Ellie's hand, as if trying to make it look like she did it herself. After that, he went on to get rid of the evidence, create an alibi at school, and even tried to wash all of his clothes. Given all of this, the court sided with the prosecution, and in November 2019, Thomas was found guilty of murder. Before the sentencing, he gave a final statement, apologizing to Ellie's family and expressing genuine regret for his actions. However, there was another issue at the end of the trial. Thomas was only 17 at the time of the murder, which directly impacted his sentence. The judge sentenced him to life in prison with the possibility of parole in just 12 years. He also added an additional 5 years for the brutality of the crime. This means Thomas could potentially be released at 34 years old. This verdict sparked outrage not only from the victim's family, but also among many citizens across the country. People were baffled as to how someone who committed premeditated murder could receive such a short sentence. But despite the public outcry, there was nothing anyone could do to change the court's decision. Ellie's father stated that this sentence puts other women at risk, as Thomas could become a danger to society upon release. He believes that Thomas is a psychopath who should not be let out of prison for the rest of his life. This injustice prompted Ellie's parents to dedicate the next few years to changing the existing legislation. In 2021, they finally achieved progress. The authorities passed Ellie's Law, which allows juvenile murderers to receive prison sentences of up to 27 years without parole. Unfortunately, this change will not affect Thomas, as he was convicted under the old laws. The only thing Ellie's parents managed to secure was a requirement for Thomas to undergo extensive therapy after his release in hopes that it would prevent him from committing similar crimes in the future. Since then, Ellie's parents have been organizing events in memory of their daughter, inviting children to ride her horses. According to her mother, this activity helps ease the pain of their loss, as horseback riding was Ellie's greatest passion. Share your thoughts on this story in the comments section and don't forget to press the like button if you enjoyed my video.